Welcome to the Yeah We Know podcast, part of the More You Knows podcasting network. In the ring with Jimmy, Chris, and Rod. I'm in the back of my truck. That's fine. Rod's in the basement. Chris is in the side room. We got a lot to talk about, though, don't we, gentlemen?
Jimmy, have you been kidnapped? Should we dispatch authorities? Is everything okay?
3 blinks, guys. 3 blinks. We are rocking and rolling here live on the More You Know podcasting network. If you want to throw something in the chat, please feel free to go ahead and do so. Let's talk about the biggest story going around. Unbelievable. I'm not even going to say it. It's Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins is back, Rod.
Yes, let's go. My guy looking absolutely resplendent. Jimmy coming down to the ring where he belongs. Oh, I loved it. The hat, the white, the Monday Night Rollins. It was great to see my guy back. Here we go. There we go.
Here we go. Hey, we got some new graphics going on. Just goofing around with some stuff. We'll see what happens.
There we go. On the fly.
That's perfectly fine. We got her. Chris King, how excited were you to see Seth Rollins come back?
I think that is great. I think we have had one of the better weekends of wrestling we have had in a long, long time. And a couple of comebacks on Monday night was exactly what we needed. Seth Rollins being the biggest.
Yeah, definitely the biggest. No, there's nothing bigger at all than Seth Rollins coming back. I think it's going to be a terrific match between he and Priest. Kind of gives that Seth Rollins his return matchup, which is nice for the title that he lost. He did lose that, right? I'm excited to see what's going to happen on that. So the second biggest story, obviously, is Chris King's boy quitting. He's done. McIntyre walked out, deleted all social media accounts. Chris, are you okay?
This has done nothing but solidify my few takes over the last couple of weeks, because if the WWE would have been listening and Triple H would have implemented these things like a VAR, like a strong referee union, we wouldn't have even had these issues from the PLE over the weekend to even culminate in Drew McIntyre walking out.
Listen, wait a minute, Chris. You've been calling for an investigation into Adam Pearce. I wanted an investigation into who your sources are, my man. I mean, honestly, how in the world did you know we were going to land on this type of finish with your guy enough to bring up in 2 successive podcasts leading into Clash at the Castle, bringing up referees and the need for instant replay? I mean, Chris, come on. I mean, you don't have to give up the names, but tell people out there that you've got this great source and they should be coming to you for this knowledge because you foresaw it.
Well, there needs to be another investigation, Rod, and this time into how a non-medically cleared jabroni was able to get a referee jersey and get out onto the main stage of a premium live event. I mean, who is running the WWE right now? Because Triple H does not have control of anything or anybody.
Well, first of all, Triple H may be dead. We'll get to that in a second. But CM Punk flew all the way to a different country just to watch a match. I love it. But you know what? They did a good job of kind of going behind the scenes and showing you how CM Punk did that. This is going to be awesome,
that referee
guys.
Needs to be fired. There needs to be an investigation.
Wow.
Drew McIntyre shouldn't have been the one that gets fined. How about the guy who's not even medically cleared to be wrestling getting into the ring? Why isn't he fined? This is the second time he has interfered in a world championship match. This has been the biggest
no. The WrestleMania go ahead, Rod. Go ahead.
No, Jimmy, your true colors are coming out. I'm with Chris on this. Chris on this.
It's not. The match was over. It was over.
I back everything that Drew McIntyre is about and everything that he has stood for these last couple of weeks. I have done nothing but throw bouquets of flowers at Drew McIntyre. And the minute that he stood back in the ring last night after trying his hardest for the people, and what did these ungrateful scumbags do in the audience? What did they start doing? They started chanting the name of the man who screwed him out of the championship belt. Jimmy, I don't blame him one bit for throwing down the microphone and saying, screw you guys, I'm out of here. Justice for Drew McIntyre.
The thing that really stinks about this is Money in the Bank is only 2 weeks away, because there is nothing a bigger pop than CM Punk climbing the ladder to get that Money in the Bank briefcase.
He clearly
and then Drew McIntyre
climb him that ladder. He can't.
Drew McIntyre coming in and costing him the champion an opportunity there. That's what you got to be. But
you can't do a spot like that, Jim. We can't
He'll
do it
die.
like that. Punk will be injured instantaneously, and he'll be out for another 6 months, and then we'll have to deal with this whole jazz again.
Speaking of death, speaking of injuries, the Wyatt 6 debuted. Rod, you are the biggest Chad Gable fan I know. He dead, right?
R.I.P. Chad Gable. I mean, I woke up early this morning and was looking on Twitter to see if there was a huge FBI investigation in Corpus Christi, Texas, because there seemed to be, I don't know. You guys catch me up on how many bodies were there supposed to be bodies? Is that why there was all the dry ice to cover up the bodies? What exactly happened? Something has to explain all the blood that was on the walls. Chad Gable clearly had blood. Yeah, Chad Gable clearly had blood on his forehead. I believe I saw somebody somewhere on Twitter said Braun Strowman may have even been.
Braun Strowman was back there, yep.
I didn't notice that either. How in the world are these guys taking down one big SOB? I don't know how in the world they pulled that off, but I'm not a horror guy, so I'm going to throw it to the man on this podcast who I know is a horror guy and get his thoughts.
I mean, I think they're all dead. I think
they're all dead. Thank you, Chris.
Listen. When I see blood in that spot on the temple, you think gunshot. Like
I know he's shot in the head.
I mean, and then you see a guy standing with a big hammer next to a guy with a huge blood splatter behind him. This is not your PG wrestling anymore, fellas.
I thought it was pretty cool. The entrance, the one shot of Nikki Cross crawling out and then going from that all the way to the back, then following. That was an amazing job by that camera crew to walk forward that far and then also walk backwards that far. Obviously, he had a spotter, but I really thought that was excellently done. I really enjoyed that a lot. We'll see. It's all about the follow-up now because you literally had these 5 people. How do you spell the word 6, Rod?
Yeah, I mean, are we leaving room for Alexa Bliss, who I guess if reports are to be believed, there might be some struggles with the daughter that they weren't anticipating that might keep her out a little bit longer? Is that maybe what it is? So
we had Eric Rowan, we had Gacy, we had your boy
Dexter Lumis, baby.
Dexter
but they
Lumis.
Covered up his face. Dexter Lumis's face.
Well, I gotta cover up everybody to start. You have Bo Dallas, and then you have Nikki Cross. Yeah, I'm assuming Alexa Bliss will be out there, but 6 is SICKS. So a different version of the word there. I don't know why they did that. Maybe that was trademark. I don't know. It's kind of weird. The shirts look kind of weird. I don't know if I buy SICKS.
It's trademark. They probably the only way they could get the trademark to then be able to make all the money off of the shirts would be to have it spelled that way, and that's fine. We'll see. Like you said, Jim, we all loved Bray Wyatt for so many things, but very few people talk about his in-ring work as what they loved about Bray Wyatt. So we'll see what they can do with any of these people. Eric Rowan's been around the block before. Dexter Lumis has had a run. We've seen Nikki Cross do a number of things. Mm-hmm. I'm not as familiar with Gacy. I have zero familiarity with Bo Dallas whatsoever. My question to you, Jimmy, is who is the Finn Balor, right? Who's the number 2 man here, right? Like clearly 2 of these guys are just going to be the low men tag team, like foot soldiers. But who's the number 2 in charge here? Is it going to be my guy Dexter Lumis? Is it Rowan? Is it that Gacy? Who is it?
It's probably going to be Gacy because he can talk. Rowan and Lumis, I think, would be a pretty decent tag team. A little homage to Harper as well there. Bo Dallas, you need to – I think there might be a Bo Dallas special or something like that from NXT on the network.
So he did NXT work?
He was NXT champion.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's an interesting transformation he's made over the years. Yeah, very interesting transformation.
I don't really buy horror movies. Chris, you like horror movies, so I'd be interested to see if you're excited for this or if you're intrepidatious.
It's interesting to me right off the bat. And for one, I get the name too because there could be 6 of them and they're all sick in the head. The 6s.
Oh yeah.
6. Like I get it. I like it. Like listen, that is an entrance to a unit that I have never seen before. I'm not familiar with this type of faction, right? Like I only saw a little tiny bit of Bray Wyatt when he came back, and that was the Mountain Dew match in the dark.
Shout out to Mountain Dew. We're still here for you.
Anytime, Mountain Dew, anytime. But so I don't have a lot. So this is fresh and new to me, and that makes it exciting. And I like it. Listen, and like I said, like that type of entrance with that type of violent images right there, like that's primo stuff that speaks right to me. Give me that.
Okay. I was able to watch a Clash at the Castle, most of it actually. Softball was a little later on Saturday, which is really nice. But overall, I think things I took away from it that I'm interested to see what you guys. Ring ropes, very slippery. Got to be careful on those ring ropes. Damian Priest almost had a very, very bad injury. Jade Cargill almost killed herself on her move. The ref even, and I know this has been all over social media, but the ref even told AJ Styles, "Hey, don't do anything special on these ropes. They're pretty bad there." Overall, I thought it was a fine show. Nothing really huge happened. I mean, there
What are
was
you
a couple
talking
surprises
about?
here and there.
None of us had Alba Fire and Isla Dawn winning. What are you talking about? Nothing huge happened. I mean, I know it's a women's tag team belt, and you like to do nothing but diminish the women's tag team belt around here.
Since day one. Yep, I'm the one. Yep, 100%.
But come on, none of us had that coming, right? And that was a cool moment. And I sort of had a feeling, even though you and I predicted that CM Punk was going to get involved with Drew McIntyre, but I really did have a feeling once they got their feel-good moment there, I was like, uh-oh, things are not going to be looking up for Drew.
That was pretty cool at the end there. You got to admit. I mean, you knew it was CM Punk coming in. You knew that was happening. That angle they took on that was fantastic. They hate Drew McIntyre. They don't want to give him his big win in front of his hometown and his home crowd. He'll get it eventually, I'm assuming, but it wasn't in the cards, Chris.
So that women's tag match was very telling in a lot of different ways. Once I knew they were giving it to Alba and Isla, is that her name? I can't remember.
We'll do both. Isla, it's fine. Ms. Dawn, if you will.
Once they got that, I knew it was over for my guy Drew. They weren't going to give the home crowd more than one. So, like, in my heart, I knew I was upset. But I really enjoyed the Road Warrior-esque look of our girls Jade and the EST.
Okay.
Am I not wrong? I think that's I like that look with them. I like the spikes in the hair. I like the face paint on Jade. Like, I thought that was a good look.
Cool.
We got to do any number of theatrics with our girl Jade at this point, right? And Jimmy, you said the ropes messed up a lot of people, but Jade's it's still there, right? The rust is still there.
Yeah.
That's why I'm kind of surprised that they took the belts off of them, because I mean, they're clearly not going to try to tell Bianca versus Jade story yet. But Jimmy, if I might, my most interesting takeaway from the Clash at the Castle was just a mere moment, just a mere glance, just a mere KO and Randy Orton coming out to help one Cody Rhodes. But I can't help but notice the camera making sure it's got Randy Orton in frame, and we can see the eyes of the Viper. Oh, look at what I see on Cody Rhodes' belt, and that envy was in his eyes. The Viper versus the American Nightmare. I feel like this podcast here in particular, Chris's energy, my energy, I feel like we're bringing this together.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen sooner rather than later. I did like the Bloodline coming out, kind of saying, and it's our turn to get that belt back. There's a lot of ways they could go for SummerSlam, Rod. There really is. I'm intrigued. I am intrigued to see where they're going to go. They're going to go Randy Orton style. They're going to go Bloodline style.
Chris, I'm interested to ask you this question, if I might. Do you think it's possible for our guy and the social media megastar, who's basically the host of Homecoming and SummerSlam, is it possible that LA Knight and Logan Paul could actually be the biggest draw at SummerSlam at this point?
If that is at SummerSlam, it's going to be my biggest draw, that's for sure. And right now, what's getting the biggest pops on a week-to-week basis? It's their back and forth. I mean, you're talking about two guys that are great on the mic, can really give it back and forth. We got vignettes of LA Knight at Logan Paul's house, just chilling in the pool.
That was awesome.
I love that stuff. We're going to love that.
Funny.
Yeah.
Your friend from LA, and then all of us were immediately like, wait a minute, you know what I mean? And then you get him in the pool. I mean, that was just absolutely incredible. I love that. That's what I mean, Jimmy. We've got so many things happening. You said it yourself. We can go a number of directions at SummerSlam. Let's not forget Gunther has the King of the Ring crown and can do something. Bailey looked good again. You know what I mean? Like we just have a number of things and ways that we can go, and we still have not had the return of Roman Reigns, but we did get the return of Seth Rollins. So I guess everything kind of balances out. Drew McIntyre quits, which, by the way, come on, none of us truly believe that he quit, right? But I will say this: it's not as good a line as Deuces Ooses. I'm out. Not as good as Deuces Ooses. It's just
That's
not.
a valid point.
I mean, timing could have been better, though. I'm glad we didn't see Drew in the back room at the end of that Raw.
But he did give us the layout, which I thought was cool, right? We got to see Drew leave in the backstage area and Triple H talking to him there in Gorilla and then walking back. And then lo and behold, we saw the same exact area in a whole different ball game later that night.
That was well. I'm sorry. I think that was well done. I know some people are like, oh, they're never going to be able to follow up on it. You know what? Give us one night for the love of Pete.
Well, it was the same thing as when Bray first came back, right? Like Bray basically never really lived up to that night that he came back in Philadelphia, but that night that he came back in Philadelphia was awesome, wasn't it?
It was pretty sweet.
The one thing too that I will say that I have noticed as like a renewed watcher, the production level of these weekly shows has been phenomenal and off the chart good, and something that I had never experienced before, nor realized I needed in wrestling until now.
Yeah, see, I'm telling you, Chris, charisma, production value, it goes a long way. And Jimmy, let's not stop talking about wrestling if we can't say that it sort of seems like your guys DIY are getting a push. It sort of seems like people are buying them a little bit. Like they're kind of like, all right, the little engine that could, we're not going to give up on DIY. And people are kind of like, all right, fine, we'll cheer for him and let's get him the belt. What do you think, Jim?
I want to stay away from it right now because things are happening that are good. For whatever reason, whenever I say DIY stuff, it does not come to fruition. So I'm going to stay away from that right now. No, it's really cool because the better they get, the more popular they get, tag team champions they get. That means the breakup and the feud coming down the road is going to be that much more fun. And they're terrific together, but they're amazing apart too. So
feud down the road. All right, let's go here, Jimmy. Prediction time. Punk, McIntyre. You asked it earlier. Rarely do you have to answer your own question. When will we see Punk McIntyre? You asked us. Chris and I said maybe SummerSlam. When do you think it will happen?
Yeah, it's going to be SummerSlam. It will not be a Hell in a Cell match. If you watch the press conference afterwards, CM Punk said that's never happening. No, it's going to have to be at SummerSlam. It's going to be no holds barred type of thing. And SummerSlam's looking to be really, really good. Really good. The title matches might be a little weird, but the undercard's going to be really solid.
I was going to say, so who's Damian Priest fighting at SummerSlam then?
Right now it's Gunther.
Again?
No, it's Gunther.
Oh, yeah, Gunther. Oh, yeah. What if Seth beats Damian, though? Is Gunther fighting Seth?
Yeah.
Gunther's going for that belt. He doesn't care who's in the ring. You know that.
Yeah, you don't want Damian to lose it quite yet, though. I don't think, but Seth and Gunther is so much better than Damian and Gunther right now.
I think anything's better than Damian. I don't know that his level has been elevated here. I'm not trying to come down on El Campeon, the Archer of Infamy, but I don't know. I just don't know, Jim.
I think you got to let Gunther beat Damian, though. I think that's better. I think the belt on Gunther is better than the belt right back on Seth.
Yeah, could be. Or Seth beats Damian, and then Gunther beats Seth. That's fine too. It can happen.
That doesn't help anybody.
Is Charlotte coming back on Friday? Am I going to get Charlotte back on Friday? She's been looking good in a few social media posts recently.
She's sitting there. She doesn't have to move, Rob.
Well, I mean, listen, I'm just grasping at straws here because SmackDown needs something. It needs something.
Hey, Andrade's a new Speed champion, so we got that going for us.
Well, listen, we all love the Speed champion. Ricochet. It did a lot for Ricochet being the inaugural Speed champion, didn't it?
Would have been cool to see Ricochet back there dead as well.
I was going to say, we're going to see Andrade go through a windshield now.
Let's hope not.
I hope not.
Well, but then Charlotte could come back kind of like that movie with Jennifer Garner. I think it was called Peppermint, where like her whole family gets wiped out by this gang, and then she like learns how to like do kung fu and shoot weapons and stuff. And she comes back and takes out the whole gang.
Anything for Charlotte to be the hero. That's all I'd want. Charlotte to be the hero.
It's hard. Most people don't like her. So like in that scenario, like if Andrade got wiped out through a car windshield, she can come back as a face.
All right. And with that, you've been listening to the Yeah We Know podcast, part of the Morgan Knows Podcast Network. You're in the ring with Jimmy, Rod, and Chris.
Free Otis Internet.
That's awesome.
All righty. All right, for those live, we are going to go right into fast break, or you want to do a little balls and brew first?
Well, we don't have to do balls and brew because we actually just took care of that, and the
Oh,
listeners
we
actually
did.
heard it with our guy Matt Roberts talking about the wonderful U.S. Open over the weekend. That's all right, Jim. Listen, again, I want to stress to the listeners that aren't watching on YouTube or later on Twitter somehow, Jimmy is not kidnapped, even though you see this video and it looks like he's just in the back of an SUV, right?
He's
not
producing
kidnapped.
from the truck. That's what's
Yeah.
going on. He's just producing
I'm in
from
the
the
truck right now.
Yeah. So you're living off
Oh.
your game. So yeah, all we got to do now is talk about the glorious Boston Celtics.
There's one thing.
We do
there's
need to
one
talk
thing.
about a somber moment. Chris has to bring
it
us down.
happened today. It happened right before we got on here live, and that's Willie Mays passed away. Let's give a rest in peace to one of the greatest ball players to have ever graced the diamond that we've ever seen.
R.I.P.
I think also the most iconic catch that has been replayed billions of times. So yes, definitely RIP to the Say Hey Kid. Welcome to the Fast Break, the fastest 15 minutes in the NBA. Rod, the floor is yours.
I guess I just want to start with a question, Jim, because you got a lot of mileage over the year with your regular season.
Oh, destroyed you.
Right.
Destroyed everybody.
I
was the Celtics of the regular season.
Okay, but I should have went back and found out, like, did we all say regular season wins pool or we just say wins pool? Because I really would be interested to see what 16 wins added to my team score ultimately does. And there probably should have been some sort of bonus associated with the man who drafted the team that ultimately won the Larry O'Brien trophy, which I did. So I guess what I'm trying to say, Jimmy, is you, sure, were great in the regular season, but I had the foresight and the vision to be able to draft the team that did the most winning in the playoffs. And I think I should get more credit for that.
Hey, Chris, stop me if you've heard this before. Rod is changing the rules on us and making it all about him. This is crazy.
It's not crazy when it happens all the time.
And by the way, Rod, you even had the Timberwolves. I still think I beat you, even if you do all that.
Oh, well, maybe you did, maybe you didn't. But I guess, again, bonus points, Jimmy. Bonus points. I got lots of them.
I still think I beat you. Celtics win in Celtics in 5. I know everyone on this podcast except Rod said Celtics in 5. I think that this is you've got to put an asterisk on this. Just joking. I think it's a great championship win. I think the Celtics deserve it. Jaylen Brown stepped up another level. I think he deserved to be MVP. I really do. Tatum had a couple of really good games. The final game was really good, but I think Brown's the MVP, right, Rod?
No, I'd voted for Jason Tatum.
You did.
I would have voted for Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum's the MVP of the Boston Celtics. He's the guy that sucks in the gravity, right? Like if Jason Kidd truly thought that Jaylen Brown was the best player on the Celtics, like he tried to start up in the media, he would have funneled the defense towards Jaylen Brown. He did it. He funneled the defense towards Jason Tatum, and that's why Jaylen Brown had a chance to have a few other scoring opportunities and look better at times throughout the series. I think Jaylen played fantastic, but I would have voted for Jason Tatum.
Chris?
I think the Jaylen Brown that we've seen in these playoffs is not the same Jaylen Brown we are used to seeing in the past, because, and I hate to say it, but the defense that he's playing, and really this is why Boston's the best team right now, is their defense. And part of that has to do with Jaylen Brown and Tatum at the forefront, and then the additions that they were able to make the last couple of years, getting White and then getting Holiday. I mean, these guys, great defenders. I do think that you got to give the MVP to Brown, though, because this is a more improved and all-around better Jaylen Brown than we've ever seen. If he played like this the last 2 years, we'd probably have different results at the end of the postseason.
He was actually the best player in that Warrior series, though, if I might actually, right? He's a guy that showed up to play in that Warrior series, but you're not wrong about his play in that Miami Heat series last year. So it's kind of like, I don't know if he's to blame for both years, but if he'd have played at this level both, you're definitely right.
for sure. So Celtics fans are rejoicing. This is number 18 now, Rod?
Yes, 18, banner number 18. And also, I'm going to start backing what Bill Simmons talks about all the time. 5 of the Lakers championships come from Minnesota. That's just ridiculous. Nobody in Oklahoma City Thunder counts the 79 Seattle Supersonics championship as one of theirs. But the Lakers, in order to keep up with the Celtics, have to win 5 banners that George Mikan won back in the days that nobody was even thinking about shooting a three-pointer or dunking. Come on, Lakers. You're better than that.
So Chris, you were around for all those championships. Go ahead.
Well, come football season, I don't want to hear Rod reminiscing about great Colts quarterbacks and bring up Johnny Unitas, because apparently they can't count towards the Colts franchise if the Lakers can't count the Minnesota years.
Listen, I believe I've waxed poetic about many a Colts quarterback, including one Don Majkowski, Jack Trudeau, Jim Harbaugh, Gardner Minshew. I can find beauty in any Colts quarterback, Chris. I don't have to go all the way back to the Baltimore days. Just because you have fond memories of paying a nickel for a bag of peanuts and sitting up there and watching those boys get after it doesn't mean I do too.
Got paid way better by Mayflower helping move those trucks. But anyways, one question I really had for Rod, and because I don't know, there seems to be a lot of different people that are getting praise from Boston fans, is like, who's to get all the reward for this? Is it the coach? Is it Tatum and Brown? Is it Brad Stevens? Like, who would you give the most credit to this championship?
That's a pretty good question. I honestly did find myself trying to think about that today in just a random time when I was washing the dishes there, between cleaning off a plate and then moving on to the next cup that I was washing in the sink there. Do you like my vamping that I'm doing as I try to continue to think about who I want to give for this answer? I think it has to be Brad Stevens. All right. And I'll tell you why. Because I think Joe Mazzulla only gets hired because of Brad Stevens' vision for the way the Celtics need to play. And Brad Stevens got the vision for the way the Celtics needed to play through coaching a lot of the personnel that still remained on that team, right? So Stevens coming up as a coach, going through the scars with Brown and Tatum, seeing what happened on the floor, and then moving up into the box and being willing to make the tough call of getting rid of Robert Williams III, who everybody loved but never could actually play, getting rid of Smart, who everybody said was the heart and soul, and bringing in guys that he said, you know what, this is what we actually need to win. And then those pieces came in, and the first year after you make those moves, they come in. So I think you got to slightly give it to Brad Stevens, but I could be being an Indiana homer here.
Yeah, Chris, I don't know. I think the players on the court you have to give a lot of credit to. I think that's pretty good. I think Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum continuing to work together, not having that big ego. Jaylen Brown finding himself after trying to play a little too much to live up to that contract at the beginning of the season. Having the foresight to bring in a Porzingis and help him acclimate very quickly. Same thing with Drew Holiday, who's got to be the best teammate ever. Not being it's selfless. They really have been the team from the beginning of the year till now is the best. And, you know, when people say, and I made a joke earlier, that it's an asterisk, they didn't have to play this team or that team. They played the teams in front of them. They won the championship, and winning championships, as I believe Brian Windhorst says, is very, very hard.
Yeah, we've had 6 different ones in the last 6 years. That's for sure. I also kind of think we got to give some credit to all the writers and NBA voters who have dismissed Jaylen Brown as an all NBA type player and has given him fuel to be better and get the Celtics over this little hump they've had over the last couple of years.
Also, I want to point out, who knows how well the Celtics play in a couple of second halves if Peyton Pritchard doesn't hit a half-court bomb right there as halftime's getting ready to start. You know what I mean? Just who's to say what kind of momentum that was able to propel the Celtics into of second halves of some of those games. So shout out to my guy, number 11, wearing the same number as Kyrie Irving, interestingly enough, who did not play well in 3 games in Boston.
By the way, literally the only play he was in for, right? I mean,
hey, listen, he knows what he's for. He knows his worth. He knows what he can do. Jimmy, if you could hit a half-court shot like that, wouldn't you say, hey, put me in for it?
Oh, heck yeah. I'd love to. That'd be amazing.
Kind of like the baseball team. They said, listen, we need somebody to head down to the bullpen and catch the guys that are getting ready to come out.
Baby.
You know, I mean,
I'll say DPC 3 years in a row. Don't think I don't.
We won't know he's a true specialist until they start doing this at the end of a game. not just the end of the first half.
Well, hey, they do it either way. Kyrie, horrible series again. Didn't do not one of the best backcourts ever in the NBA Finals. I think we can say that. Very strange, extremely gracious at the end. Giving the high fives and the hugs with 3 minutes to go when they threw in the towel. Is Kyrie a changed man, Rod? I almost got it out without smiling.
I mean, I'd like to think that he's made some changes, but I think it's also probably pretty fair to say that those changes might be just as simple as I'm interested in being able to continue making good money as a basketball player and possibly decent money as an endorser. So I'm just going to try a little bit to stay on the straight and narrow and in everybody's good graces. I kind of feel that coming out of Kyrie a little bit, but I suppose the only reason I feel that is because basically Kyrie comes off as disingenuous almost no matter what he says. So that's probably why I feel that way.
Chris, you're a big Kyrie guy.
Listen, I cannot deny that he had an off series. I would say that everybody not named Luka had an off series, and even Luka had a couple bad nights. I mean, to diminish what Boston did and to not acknowledge what Dallas lacked and put all that on Kyrie isn't fair to anyone, I don't think. Yeah, he had a bad series, but so did almost every other player for the Mavericks. All right. Boston was a juggernaut that was healthy for the most part, and Dallas wasn't. But the off the court crap that Rod cares about with Kyrie, I really don't care at all. I haven't had that hatred for him. I am glad to see that he no longer believes in the flat earth theory. That's about as far as I'll go.
Okay, but let's
wait a minute. But the painting behind you, Chris, is a flat earth. So come on, dude.
Isn't it fair though to say that a guy like PJ Washington and a guy like Derek Jones Jr., who was signed for the minimum, and a guy like Derek Lively, who's 19 years old, might not be expected to step up in the NBA Finals quite the same way as a previous NBA champion and a guy who's played in the finals before, Chris?
I mean, Dallas needed those guys to step up to even get to the finals. If they're not going to keep stepping up, you have no chance of winning. It's just like with Boston. If it wasn't for White, Horford, Holiday, guys like that who kept them in there, Boston wouldn't have been up there. You need your guys that have stepped up in the playoffs to continue to step up. Don't give me that jive about how only the superstars have to step up. It's everyone. The finals are tough.
Are you like shucking and jiving? Isn't that from like Dukes of Hazzard or something like that?
He said jazz earlier too. He's really pulling out all the old manisms tonight.
So NBA season is over. The NBA draft is coming up. I believe it's next week already.
26th and 27th, I believe, or 27th, 28th, one of those two.
Not too many people I could name in the draft right now. I haven't done my research on that, but we do have some free agents coming up. I want to go real quick before we get out of here. I want to ask you, of these free agents, are they staying on the same team or are they going somewhere else? Number one, Chris King, LeBron James, a Laker or somewhere else?
I think it's a Laker.
Okay. Rod?
Man, I'm going 80% Laker, which I think is crazy because a little while ago I would have said 100%, but I think there's 20% chance that LeBron's toying around, making some phone calls, doing some feelers, seeing how things might possibly work out. So I think there's a 20% chance, but I'm still going Lakers.
I'm going Lakers too, but I wouldn't rule out. Let's go back home. Let's go home again. Let's go to Cleveland again.
See,
Why not?
Philly. I think it's Philly or Dallas. I smell Philly.
I would say it's probably Dallas. A big one that a lot of people aren't sure on. Paul George. Is he going to stay a Clipper? He's wanted to play in LA his whole life. He finally got the opportunity to. Is he going to go somewhere else, Chris?
He's going to Philadelphia. That's who's going to be your Sixer.
Okay. Rod?
Orlando. He's going to go to Orlando and play for a bunch of money and have zero pressure because Paul George digs that, baby.
I think I'm going to keep him in LA. I think I'm going to keep him in LA. I don't know why. I just have a feeling. Speaking of LA, James Harden. Chris King. Is he staying? Where is he going?
I think he stays. He's got it easy there.
Okay. Because he's got Kawhi, and right now he has Paul George as well, so he can kind of hide a little bit. I think he's going to stay in Philadelphia too. Rod, where's James Harden going to go?
He stays in LA because they're going to foolishly pay him the money because they won't really be able to bring anybody else in. And then when Paul George leaves, they're going to really be scrambling. So he stays there.
Klay Thompson. I'm thinking he's going to be the Philadelphia. I think he's going to Philly. Rod.
OKC.
Ooh, okay. I like that. Chris.
I'm going to say he ends up in Atlanta.
Whoa, Atlanta?
Wow, okay. So
he's clearly just going for money because Atlanta's going to blow it up, I think, and absolutely stink. Or do you think Atlanta's going to try to patch it together one more year?
I think Atlanta makes a lot of bad decisions, and I think this will be one of them.
I don't think Atlanta's made a good decision since the Horford days, really, and even
let's
then,
not forget they traded the pick that was Luka Doncic. So shout out to you, Hawks.
There's a lot of teams that are regretting that, including the Kings and the Suns, by the way. DeMar DeRozan, Chicago's own DeMar DeRozan. Bulls are idiots, okay? They want to be that 9-10 seed. They're going to keep. I like DeMar DeRozan a lot. Fine, he can't be your number one player, but he's going to be the Bulls' number one player. He's going to stay in Chicago. Rod.
Philadelphia. Enjoy your booby prize of DeMar DeRozan. That's where I think the Sixers are going to end up with.
Okay. Chris.
I think you're going to see him go west and play with somebody who realizes they need a little bit more of a threat on offense and defense. Yeah, he'll take a little bit less money because he's going to be ring chasing, and I think you'll see him in Denver.
Oh, see, I was jealous of that. I knew that's where you were going once you said it. I'm jealous of that. That's a good call, actually, because he could easily fill the KCP role.
All right, I got two more for you. OG Anunoby stays in New York. Probably already got done. Rod.
Absolutely, 100% book it.
Yeah,
yep. Chris.
Okay. He doesn't come out and almost risk whatever he was risking by that horrible 3-4 minutes he tried playing in that game if he doesn't know he's got a contract with the Knicks.
Right.
And a favorite one of mine, because it's one of those players who signed for, I believe it was the minimum, had a pretty decent couple of games, especially the last game he played in. Derek Jones Jr. from Dallas. They're thinking he's going to get 2 years, $44 million maybe. Chris King, who's he go to?
I think you see him someplace like Memphis.
Okay, so just kind of a random, maybe a team wanting to get somebody in there to shoot. Okay, Rod.
A team that's like missed on a couple other people, and then they'll be like, okay, we need to get somebody, and that he'll be the hottest name left.
Okay.
I want to apologize to our Memphis brothers and sisters for Jimmy just saying somebody random. Let's not forget, Memphis was ravaged by injuries this year and suspension.
Oh, no question.
That team was a stone cold solid team a few years ago with a lot of young pieces. A guy like that coming into Memphis, that's another strong answer from our guy Chris there. So okay. I'm going to agree. I'm going to go ahead and agree and say Memphis as well. But I'm not sure that they have quite the money. So I also worry about Derek Jones saying to himself, you know what? Let me go ahead and get a 4-year contract to go play with the Blazers. Right? I'll figure it out after that. Let me take the Blazers money.
No, I got you one better. This is a classic Detroit move. Detroit's going to go with Derek Jones Jr. Definitely going to be Detroit. He may not be tall enough.
We can't get young guys anymore. They will say something like that because they already got like 8-9 young guys. So you might be right there, Jim.
So over the next couple of weeks, we're going to have a lot to talk about with the draft, the free agency, and I'm sure we'll have a lot to still talk about those Boston Celtics.
Listen, speaking of the draft, Jimmy, I got a little nugget here. I'm not Williams, all right? I'm not Williams, but you look at the odds for the draft right now. You get a couple of foreign guys, right? Neither one of them seems spectacular. I like Donovan Clingan to be a surprise number one because we know what he is, right? He's a 7-foot athletic big. You could still get him at a pretty decent number right now. Throw down a couple ducats. All of a sudden, Clingan's the number one pick, and you got a nice little payday there. Because I do not like Sarr, do not like Ricochet. So I don't know that you're going to see 6'1" Reed Shepherd out of Kentucky as number one. He's been getting a lot of talk recently. As much as I'm all for the white Americans, I don't think we're going to see him as a number one. But Clingan, height, it works.
And with that, you've been listening to the Fast Break on the Morgan Knows Podcasting Network. It's been a great show. Rod, Chris, thanks for coming.
Goodbye, Internet.